Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, guests, honored guests, and viewers at home. I'd like to welcome back Stephanie and Scott. Thank you. Back from Australia. Now, thank you for coming to Toastmasters. We have a great group tonight, 2 speeches, and I'd like to turn this meeting over to our president. As soon as I introduce myself, it's Rhonda Whitaker. I'm Sergeant at Arms tonight. And please help me warmly welcome Will Burns.
Yay!
Thank you, Rhonda. Welcome, Toastmasters, viewers at home, and distinguished guests. I see we have 2 guests in the audience here, so would you mind standing up for just a moment? Tell us your name and what brought you here. With you, ma'am.
My name is Lynette Bevacqua. I just moved out here from Chicago about 7 months ago. And my company in Chicago, I'm a loan officer, and one of the fellows started going to the Toastmasters downtown Chicago location and got the whole office involved. So I went online and I was happy to see that there was a chapter out here.
My name is Rick Starr. I've been interested in Toastmasters for a long time, but I've always kept putting it off. And last night while riding my bike, I ran into my friend John Loris, and I actually didn't run into him. I just met him, and he told me about Toastmasters, so I'm finally here.
All right.
I also have an issue with procrastinating, but I'll work on that some other time.
Welcome, you both. Here at Toastmasters, we like to provide a mutually supportive, positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our Toastmaster, John Loris. Ryan Olson.
He got it right!
Hi, I'm the other John Loris, or Ryan Olson, your Toastmaster for this evening. And welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
We'd like to hear from our timer, Rhea Saint. You could
The table topics are 1 to 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green light is turned on at 1 minute. The yellow light's turned on at 1 minute and 30 seconds. And the red light is turned on at 2 minutes. And remains on until the end of the speech. Prepared speeches are usually 5 to 7 minutes. I believe our first one will be 9 to 11 minutes. And the green light will be turned on at 9 minutes, the yellow at 10, and the red at 11. And Tom's speech will be, I don't have the time, but the same thing.
7 to 9.
7 to 9.
Is Rahul.
And the evaluations are 3 minutes. So the green light will be turned on at 2 minutes, the yellow light at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the red light at 3 minutes, and remains on until the end.
Thank you, Rhea. And now our counter, Jeff Shipley, is going to fill us in on what he's going to be doing tonight.
I'm the counter this evening. I provide the motivation to avoid filler words and crisp up your speech. Filler words include like, you know, so, but, and, clicks of the tongue and annoying sounds like that, awkward pauses, repeats, and false starts or stutters. So I'll be tallying up everyone who uses those filler words and giving a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you.
And also tonight, Darlene will be our grammarian,
Yay, darn.
Okay, part of my role as the grammarian is to give the word of the day. And the word of the day today is motivation, and Jeff didn't know it, but he used it, and I've already written it down. The definition is the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. And my sentence is, what was your motivation to come to our meeting this evening? Yay! I'm also going to be looking out for language, incorrect and proper language used during the meeting, and I'm going to give a report at the end of the meeting and see how many people use the word of the day.
Thank you.
Yay! All right. Well, now for one of my favorite parts of the evening comes the table topics category. So, Rhonda Whitaker. Table topics evaluation.
Greetings, friends. We're among friends. This is a friendly audience. Topics, table topics is a general event for each person who is new, a guest, a new member, to come up and for 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes speak off the cuff, on their feet, thinking in their head with a plan, and I will tell you how you get a plan. You can stand here for 30 seconds with your eyes closed, thinking to yourself, or just gaze into the distance and think about how you want to answer these simple questions. The simple questions are a general opinion, so it's not a test, it's something creative. And it helps you get those neurons firing in your brain that work in the moment. It's impulsive. Some people are very impulsive just naturally. I won't point them out. But after imagining what you're going to say, there are strategies or structures that can help you express your opinion. There's the divide and conquer. You use like a pro and a con, or cause and effect, or before and after. There's a 3-way to do it. It's good, better, best, past, present, future, or situation, cause, and consequence. If you don't want to divide and conquer, you can tell a story. You can tell a true story, you can make something up, or you can imagine something. If that's not to your liking, you also have the choice to go deeper by picking a definition, the definition approach of your answer, or the question behind the question. There might be a deeper meaning. You can also relate it to someone or something that you know. As a last resort, you can ask the audience, do you have any questions? Or you can stall, like, well, as I said before, but as I did say, and in addition to, all those kind of phony baloney things, or you can think out loud while you're figuring out a strategy. You can also segue. You can say, well, this is a very good question. However, I'm more excited about telling you about this experience I had. So those are the things. I'm asked to keep this in the theme of our Father's Day theme. The greatest thing a father can do to his children is to love their mother, by Anjaneth Garcia Utalan. So we have some questions about your dad, and we only have 10 minutes for our table topics tonight. So
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So do I have a volunteer? A guest, perhaps? All right, wonderful. Welcome, Art. I'll read the question for you. Pick a number between 1 and 7, please.
7.
When did your father first praise you, or express pride in you, or say he loved you?
Good evening, Toastmasters, friends, and viewers at home. When did my father first express love or praise me? This is a sad question for me to address. Because I cannot recall, although I know it must have happened, cannot recall that happening when I was old enough to really appreciate it. My dad was a military man. You'll notice that I'm standing here in what is a military parade rest. And many of you have commented about the fact that it would be good for me to step out of military parade rest when I'm talking to any audience. But this is a very comfortable position and a habitual position for me. And it's one that I saw my dad speak from often. It's one that I saw trained in Boy Scouts of America, in all the troops and Eagle groups that I was in, Sea Scout groups. So it's a familiar and comfortable position. But the sad thing about this question is that I can't actually remember my father doing that. It wasn't part of his training about how to be a father to praise. Now, I have to say, I'm becoming aware as I grow that the reality that we see is not necessarily what's out there, it's what we perceive. And I had a filter in place that's called not good enough. And I don't know where I picked this up. I don't think my parents meant to give it to me. But that filter was filtering out anything that didn't match, not good enough. And praise wouldn't match with not good enough. So I believe it's probable that he did. I know we did a lot of stuff together, like sailing small boats and building stuff. And I know that my dad loved me, but I didn't actually get back in love with my dad until he'd been dead for 25 years. And I just spent a fabulous lunch conversation with another friend a couple of days ago exploring that great experience.
Who would like to come up next? Jean, wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Jean. Please pick a number between 1 and 6. 2. Did your father slay dragons for your mother at work or play or within himself? Challenges. Thank you, Jean.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about the way my dad worked in the world. We were not wealthy. We were not even upper middle income. I'd say we were usually kind of scraping a bit as we were growing up. My dad, though, had a way of getting doors opened for our family. And he did it by knowing everybody. I used to say that my dad knew everybody in the Northeast. He had gone to Yale. He had good bona fides. He had gone to Yale. He had various connections with people, but he could always find some way that he knew somebody through somebody through somebody. And he was able to get all kinds of things accomplished for our family. We'd get invited places to go stay with people who did have a lot of money. Now, his approach was we would go and he would get the kids to do chores for the host. Oh, here, you kids, you come on, let's go clean up, which I didn't quite feel was great, but the hosts seemed to love it, and they loved my dad. In terms of slaying dragons, therefore, I would say my dad, for our family, used modest resources, modest assets and leveraged them to give our family, members of our family, opportunities such as country club memberships where we weren't the ones that were dining all the time, but at least we were at the country club and we were meeting people who knows, maybe it would be beneficial in the future. And that's how my dad operated. My dad just knew people. And it was a very intriguing study to be with my dad for that reason. It's amazing what he got accomplished. So those are the dragons that he slayed.
Hey!
Who would like to come up next? All right, Diane.
Are we out of time?
No,
Do we have time?
Oh, okay.
Okay, please pick a number. Between 2 and 6 or number 1.
2 and 6. Number 1.
What's the best advice you ever received from your father? And what would he say to you today? Thank you.
Good evening, Toastmasters, guest. Good to see you, Rick, and viewers at home. I jumped up because one of my favorite topics, one of my most favorite people in my life who's no longer here is my father. I love to talk about my father. You talk about blessings in life. I was blessed with an incredible father. I could answer each and every one of those questions, you know, a moment of pride. My father just jumped up at my college graduation when they were told, please be seated, filled with pride, and just came up and let me know that. The other thing, the slaying the dragon question, he slayed dragons all over New York City. He commuted, he fought, you know, the Long Island Expressway. He drove taxi cabs in New York City on Friday nights to help his kids go to college. So to answer this question about his best piece of advice, he was also a lot of fun, and I've shared some really fun stories about my dad over the years in my speeches. He was a funny man, though. He gave this advice, but he really didn't follow it. As he sat and enjoyed a huge steak, a couple of beers, a couple of baked potatoes, he'd say, he used to love to bang his fist on the kitchen table. He'd say, "Moderation, Diane. Moderation." On Mondays, when he would go on his fast, we called them our cleanses and fasts. You know, okay, just yogurt for a couple days. Moderation, Diane. Moderation. It just, you know, it was sort of like, okay, Dad, as we watched him do two extremes most of the time. So if he were here now, he would look at me, he'd look at you all, and he'd say, especially in this community, you know, don't get too crazy, don't get too... Moderation. That's the advice that he would give. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to ask our timer,
Get room for one.
one more?
Yeah,
Oh,
one
goody,
more.
who wants to go? Oh, ladies first.
Hurry up.
That'd be you, Stephanie.
Hurry up.
Please pick a number between 3 and 6. 5. What characteristics do you see? What? Your father's characteristics in yourself. What do you see in yourself that's like your father? And how does it apply to your relationship?
Ah!
Fellow Toastmasters, honoured guests and viewers at home. Well, I do hope that I take after my father in some ways. And one of the things I noticed about my father was that he never said, anything bad about anyone. He never told stories about people, and you know, some of the sort of bitchiness that can go on in families sometimes, and bad feelings and various stories were coming from other parts of the family. But Dad never seemed to say anything bad about someone. And I must admit that was probably very challenging for him, because my mother is not the easiest woman to get along with. But my father, for the most part, didn't complain and was reasonably fine with everybody and very even-tempered. So I hope that in my relationship with Scott that he sees some of that, and that I don't get angry or upset or tell stories about people. So that's the quality of my dad that I'd like to say I have inherited. One of the other things that came up recently, I was thinking about my dad, is we've been reading a book or listening to an audio book called Born to Run. And basically it's about the Mexican tribe who loved to run, and it goes into the whole thing about how we used to chase animals in the past. That's how we survived as a species. And part of it also comes into the way the shoes, the soft shoes that have been developed over recent years. Of course, a lot of people have injuries and different things. And my dad, who was a very good runner, always used to say that I was a hopeless runner because I hadn't run barefoot across the paddocks. And so in a way, my dad was doing exactly what this book says you should do: toughen up your feet and just get out there. And my dad won all sorts of cups, and he also used to do pole vaulting in the days before they invented the ass to land on, things like that. So I think of my dad as someone who was a runner as well. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Leah, our timer, to give us a report on who qualified. Did all our table topic speakers qualify?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so please take the little strip of white paper and vote for the best table topics person. Oh, I'm sorry, Rhea, I have to read it.
Art, Jean, Diane, and Stephanie.
Jean was in
Welcome back. I would like to introduce our table topics evaluator, Mr. Jyoti Raj Adhikari.
Fellow Toastmaster guests and viewers at home. We have 4 speakers and I have only 3 minutes, so I'll go straight to the evaluation. I'll start with Art. He was fabulous as usual. He shook hands. He thought for a while what he's going to speak about, exactly what he said. If you want to think, you can think. Use that technique. He greeted the audience. And he repeated the question, so that if in audience somebody is confused what was asked, he repeated it. That is helpful for him also and for audience too, to know what was actually asked. So that was his good part. He used his sticks very well, but he was moving here and there. But my suggestion is little bit use of your body and hands. You moved here, there, but a little bit, I didn't find a little bit of connection with your talk and the gesture. I don't know why, but yeah. But it was really very good talk. It was about your emotion and feelings, so I don't have anything to say about what you said because it's about your father and your feelings. About Jean, she is as good as usual. She also greeted the audience. She shook hands. Her gesture was very good. She used the stage. She has very good voice, tone, audible. But let's see. But I want her to use a little bit of stage. You were here, and one more thing. You were just most of the time your eye contact was this part and at the front. So just put your eyes to the audience. That was my suggestion. And for Diane, You're really good. And your voice was loud as usual. And you also use the stage, but most of the time I find you here. And there are a lot of gestures like this. But standing the same position, if you see the video, you'll find you are always here. So I just wanted to move here and there. That was Stephanie. You're also great. You shook your hands. Nice gesture. Greeted audience. And I can see the proudness in your face when you were talking about your father. That was the best that you had today. And you use the stage, but I found you also you're standing here most of the time. And once or twice I found you were a little bit, you didn't know what to do, so you were doing like this. So that was a little bit of a suggestion, so you can do other movement other than this. So, and about eye contact, so you are doing rapid eye contact. I don't know how to say, but you're doing here. So you didn't look at me at all as you were editing. So if you go once here, there for a moment, there for a moment, there for a moment, that'd be nice. That's my suggestion. Thank you very much.
Wonderful speech evaluations, thank you. And now we are moving on to the part of the evening that encompasses the prepared speeches. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Jesus Rios.
Right.
Yo!
It is my pleasure to introduce the first speaker of the night, Karen. My name is Jesus Rios, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. Tonight you are in for a treat. The title of her speech is "The Range of Experience is from Point to Eternity." And I will read the objectives as outlined on the menu. She will select a speech topic that determines determine in general and specific purpose. I apologize for my stuttering. I'm having like a little bit of a blurred vision due to my allergies. She will have an organized speech in a manner that best achieve those purposes. Ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce the purpose. Project sincerity and conviction and control any nervousness she might feel. She will strive to use no notes. The time requested is from 7 to 9 minutes. Karen Acoy is a part owner of Earth and Water Tea Lunch and Pottery Shop located at 101 North Main Street, Suite B, on the square in Fairfield. For tonight's talk, Karen Acoy will share her vision for bringing tea to Fairfield by answering the question, what is the point of going to a tea shop? She will draw on her experiences of tea ceremony from growing up in Japan and on her experience of meditation on the last 10 years to address her main point, which is to establish that the purpose of any action or ritual is to experience the full range of experience possible to the human nervous system. She will share how the way of tea, a ritual and a spiritual practice developed in China and passed on to Japan. It is a perfect example of fusing the highest philosophical ideal with practical life. Please help me welcome Karen Acoy.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. I'm Karen Aoki, and my talk tonight is inspired by a question that was put to me by one of our golden speakers. Looking for Jean. Okay. Well, I wanted to express gratitude to Jean because a couple weeks ago she came up to me and asked me after the meeting, I'd really like to go to your tea shop, but what would I do? What's the purpose of going to have tea?
She actually is.
Yeah, very straightforward. And I welcomed that question. I took that home with me. And that's what motivated my talk for tonight. As you know, number 3 speech is about getting to the point. And I thought this was perfect because the whole point of tea is to go beyond the point. It's to expand the mind to experience the self. Now, in the title, I use the word infinity. The range of life is from point to infinity, but to get a little more concrete, what I mean by that is just the experience of the self, your natural self, who you are, without any of the distractions. Tea ceremony has been developed over hundreds of years. I mean, it goes back to maybe the 6th to 9th century AD in China. And it's always been paired with Buddhism. It's the monks and the intelligentsia culture that picked up tea and developed a beautiful ritual which infused the philosophical ideals of Buddhism with practical life. And this is how not only Buddhism, but cultures around the world have defined enlightenment or heaven on earth. It's when every action in life carries within it the ability to connect with the divine, and also with that, the ability to never lose that connection. Everything about the tea ceremony in Japan inspires that connection with the divine. Everything is choreographed, everything is ritualized, but the point is not about the specific moves. It's about moving beyond and being motivated to go into the silence, the space in that moment. So everything stops. It's a beautiful experience. And I had the privilege of experiencing tea ceremony because I grew up in Japan. My father's Japanese. And because my mother's American, I'm able to kind of bridge the gap between the two cultures and explain a little more about the abstract, which the Japanese are able to express, and then bring it more into the cultural framework of American minds. My aunts were raised traditionally, so they were taught how to do tea ceremony and flower arranging, all the traditional arts. They were also seamstresses, so they would make beautiful silk garments. I'm giving you an example of a kimono that one would wear in a tea ceremony. This is quite elaborate. This is more of what, this is an empress, so this is more of the imperial court standard. But we still wear these traditional garments, especially tea ceremony. And my aunt would go to the section of the house reserved for just tea ceremony. Nothing else happens there. It's a whole wing of the house. And one would enter, very traditional tea rooms. The door is very low to the ground. So as you enter like this. And so you're already in a show of humility. And that initiates the whole experience. The guests are seated around the periphery of the room. Everybody, including the guests, know exactly what to do. The whole ceremony is conducted in silence. My aunt, who is hosting the tea ceremony, she would sit in the center of the room. Of course, everything is done seated on the floor on bamboo mats. And she would begin by drawing water from an iron kettle using a bamboo utensil, and she would start to make tea. And every aspect of making tea is carefully orchestrated. I don't know all the movements, but I saw it. And hopefully you get a feeling of it. The tea that we use for ceremony is green tea in its powdered form, as you see. The reason Japan uses a powdered green tea is because this is the form of tea that came to Japan when the Buddhist priests from Japan went to China. Okay, so they were greatly influenced by Chinese culture, and this is where tea was at, powdered green tea. They brought this back to Japan from China, and immediately the Zen priests of Japan incorporated it into their daily practice of Zen meditation and culture and elevated tea ceremony to such high status. They saw it as not only a beautiful ritual, but as a spiritual practice. At that point, the monk who brought it back, his successor, created these codes and these conducts, these ritual movements, which have been revived in Japan and are still practiced today. So the hostess will conduct a series of movements. She'll take the tea, pour it into a carefully crafted pottery vessel, and pottery was developed right along with tea. The two art forms are symbiotic, and the tea form that we are using for Japanese tea ceremony uses a very low, wide bowl, so as to get the proper froth that's required for excellent tea. And then the tea master will have carefully orchestrated movements, and she will whisk it and make movements like this. And at the end of it, you'll see, well, of course she's added water to the tea. You'll see beautiful green foamy liquid on the bottom. I can't demonstrate it here, but. And then she'll pass it on to the first guest. The guest will say words of astonishment, and she'll marvel at the beauty. It's part of the ceremony to admire the vessel that you are using and to look at the qualities of it. And then she will take 3 sips, and then she'll bow, and then the host will prepare the tea for the second person. So everything is done very carefully like this, and in utter silence. Everything about the tea room is so carefully arranged. It's very minimalistic, but anything that's hanging up, the scroll and the painting on the wall with calligraphy, or the tinkering of a bell, or the running of water, because the tea room always faces a garden. Everything just inspires subtler levels of mind, and you experience that transcendence. And as a young girl, I wasn't taught Buddhist practices or philosophy because my father had converted to Christianity, ironically. But in the ritual, I experienced it, I got it. And living in Japan, since Buddhism is a part of the people, the spirit, you don't really need to study it to get it and to catch those moments of utter simplicity. And it left an impression. Maybe I didn't intellectually understand what was going on, but since that moment, it created a flavor of, a range of possibilities far beyond the mundane. So even though I was so much into flute and academics and music, and I was all over the place with these simple moments like tea ceremony that awakened my soul. I knew there was more. And that led, ironically, to finding meditation in the US. So that's how I started Transcendental Meditation, because it confirmed the experiences I had growing up in a Buddhist culture. Now, it's not necessarily known or practiced in Japan. Even that art is lost there too. But it's in places like tea ceremony or these beautiful gardens where you do feel a little bit of that original quality of transcendence. I wanted to share a little bit of a Buddhist philosophy so you understand the sentiment and why tea ceremony inspired the Buddhist monks. Because tea ceremony ended up embodying the spirit of Buddhism. This comes from the Tao Te Ching, which is from China, and it speaks of the transcendent, that which is infinite, that which transcends time and space. This is verse 48. In the pursuit of learning, one knows more every day. In the pursuit of the way, one does less every day. One does less and less until one does nothing at all. And when one does nothing at all, there is nothing that is undone. It is always through not meddling that the empire is won. Should you meddle, then you're not equal to the task of winning the empire. Interesting enough, tea ceremony, flower arranging, was practiced by the warriors. They knew that with tea ceremony, flower arranging, the greatest achievement came about because the mind was conquered. And we know that transcending, experiencing infinity, is nothing more than a very simple experience. It just means that you're not distracted by this or that, you're just simply in the moment. And with tea ceremony, flower arranging, how easy it is when you're inspired by nature, by beautiful choreographed moves to just flow and get back into that simple rhythm. That is the point of drinking tea. That's what motivated me to bring something here that helped me get that feeling that I had in Japan. While I enjoy coffee houses very much, you can see it's quite a different kind of culture. Coffee revs you up and it gets the talking going.
Yeah.
Something about tea, there's caffeine in tea for sure, but there's also another component, L-theanine, which has the effect of relaxing the nervous system. So there'll be this balance of caffeine and L-theanine, which we understand today, these chemical components. The Buddhist monks got that by experience. They would drink it and then they could get through their long meditations. Plus, brewing the tea, the taste of the tea, it's so subtle. If you consider coffee or soda, those are very obvious flavors. With tea, you kind of have to be in a quiet place to catch everything that's going on. That's why we consider it like a more ethereal, ephemeral experience. It's subtle. You have to really pay attention. If you're reading a book and you're drinking fabulous tea, you're going to completely miss out on, well, for one thing, a very expensive experience, but a very high-quality experience. Like if you're having fine wine, I don't think you would be watching TV or doing anything else. So same thing with tea. I'm going to give... The tea has a long history with Buddhist and Japanese culture. And there was this intention behind it the whole time, to raise the status of culture, to bring etiquette and, I'm at the end, so I won't go through the tea history, but I hope you got a feeling for the purpose of having a tea shop. And although we invite all sorts of experiences there, absolutely, we always love it when somebody comes in and they order a tea and they ask about the history of it, and then they go down, and although they have a book in hand, I just end up seeing that the book is never opened. They drink their tea and their eyes are closed and they are somewhere else. That's the point of having tea, going beyond that point of taste and moving into the infinite.
Go! Okay, now we will take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. Okay. And now I would like to invite up Tom Trainer to read the objectives for Will Watts.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored, distinguished guests, viewers at home. Tonight, Rahul is doing project number 6 out of the Basic Competent Communicator Manual, and this is the second time he's done this project. It's the old story, if it's good once, it's much better twice. His objectives are, and this title of this project is Vocal Variety, so his objectives are to use his voice in a pleasing way that one can listen, with a proper balance of volume, pitch, rate, and use pauses to enhance his message. His voice should reflect and add meaning to the thoughts he is presenting. Speaker is to incorporate all the lessons he learned in the 5 previous projects about purpose, organization, word usage, body language. To introduce Rahul, he's been an enthusiastic, in his words, member of Toastmasters here in Golden Speakers for nearly 2 years.
Wow.
This past January, he was appointed to be Golden Speakers Vice President of Education, the most difficult and the most demanding job in the entire club. He is on a quest to fulfill his responsibility as Vice President of Education. He's going to give a series of talks that explain the benefits that all Toastmasters gain by following the Toastmaster program. And he's going to talk about actually the leadership aspect of Toastmasters. So the second talk that he's done in this particular project, it's called Be a Leader, Be a Competent Leader, and Do the Competent Leader Manual, which you've all been provided, which has amazing things that you can learn. Please help me warmly welcome Rahul Watts.
We have a rule. This is not a part of my speech, but while the person goes back and takes his seat, we keep applauding. So remember that. All right. Friends, honored guests, dear Toastmasters and viewers at home, my name is Rahul Watts. And as Tom introduced me, I'm the Vice President of Education for this club, Golden Speakers. Golden Speakers Club is a very special club because all the members in our club are very motivated individuals. They don't need you to tell them what they need to do in order to be a competent communicator, in order to be a leader. As the reason, for past 7 years, we held this lectern for being the distinguished club, the presidential distinguished club in the state of Iowa, the highest honor that the club can have in a state. Last year, we unfortunately lost and didn't meet our requirements, but it's the duty of Vice President of Education to tell the members what they need to do and keep track of what they are doing so that this goal can be achieved. And with that, here I am going to tell each and every one of you what you need to do so that we can get this back. How you can be a leader, a competent leader. All right, that's for the vocal variety part of it because, yeah, well, you know, this is a talk where I have to give some serious message and I might not be able to do much of a variety, but I'm trying my best to meet the goal of the talk as well. When I was appointed the job of VP of Education for this club, I didn't know much about what my responsibilities were, about what I have to do besides just managing the metrics, which is a thing which you see almost every day. So I went onto the site and downloaded this manual. It gives a list of all the jobs that Vice President of Education needs to do in order for the club to achieve its goal. And the very first thing that I realized is that I need the members to realize that they have to give the speeches, which is what you are here in Toastmasters for, right? You're here to be a good public speaker. I asked you a question, guys.
Oh yeah?
Yes. Yes. So I hope I receive an answer as well. So you all agree that you are in Toastmaster to be a public speaker.
Yes.
But the club statement, the club mission, the goal, the statement for our club, for any Toastmaster club is, the mission of a Toastmaster club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills. Underline this, leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. Now, most of the people do understand and realize what they're doing with the objectives for being the public speaker. But there are a lot of people who don't understand how are they getting the benefit of being a leader. John?
Yes.
Leader.
Leader.
For that,
Is that the right answer?
for that, there is a manual. And this manual is called Competent Leader Manual that you all must have gotten when you became a member. Everyone has this manual? Does everyone got a manual?
Yes.
Yes.
We do.
And who all have brought it with him or her today?
I did.
I forgot
Me too.
mine.
All right, so one thing which I never learned initially when Tom kept on telling me, Rahul, you need to bring your manuals. You need to bring your manuals. I never did, unfortunately. But when I became the VP of Ed, I realized that these are important things and you need to bring them. Because each year, for achieving this goal, we have to have at least 2 competent communicators and 4 competent communicators. Tom is correcting me. He is a distinguished Toastmaster DTM.
2 times.
That's the That's twice. That's the highest level of leadership that you can achieve in Toastmaster. So he's right. 4 manuals for speeches and 2 for the leadership. Now in leadership, if you have your leadership books, please open them and go to this page where it keeps track of the responsibility that you do. Just take a look at that page. As a VP of Ed, when I create a metric, it's my job to make sure that each person gets to do these roles. But as an individual, it's your responsibility to make sure that you tell me which of these goals, which of these roles would you like to have. I've been very lenient in assigning a person a speech when they want to give it. But according to the guidelines that I have, I should not assign anybody a chance to speak unless they have fulfilled 3 roles. So, the main message that I wanted to communicate, that I wanted to convey to you today is when you sign up for any program, not just Toastmasters, but for any program, the most effective benefit of that program you can only achieve when you fulfill and you follow what the guidelines for that program are. As of now, I'm going to give you a series of lectures highlighting the importance of different manuals and responsibilities that each officer has in this club. But when I will be doing that, the only promise that I would like to take from your side is that you will go and read your manual. At least the 2, competent communicator and competent leader. When you will read those manuals, you will realize how can you be a leader and a competent one at that. Toastmasters, at this point of time, I would like to just give, this was an introduction for the series of talk that I'm going to give, and I'd like to end my speech today with this thought and food for you, food for thought for you, that you can be a leader, a competent leader. How? That'll be next week. Just go and do your homework. Read your manuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. I'm very, very motivated to break out my manual and read it. I now will provide 2 minutes for everyone to review Rahul Vats's speech. Time to vote. Did both of our speakers qualify, Rita?
Karen did not. She came in at 12 minutes.
Okay, all right. So Karen was disqualified due to going over the time. And we do have one person who qualified on time, which would be Rahul. So you can vote for Rahul or Rahul.
Voting's done. Middle.
Okay, so I would like to bring up John Loros as the genuine evaluator.
Good evening, golden speakers, guests, viewers at home, and the relieved speakers that we have today. Now that it's over, they're relieved. The motivation for them to come tonight was to give a speech. The motivation for everyone else was to support our club, which I think is a great thing. What I'd like to talk about are the 3 evaluators we had tonight. No, I want to bring up an evaluator.
Yeah.
I have 1 so far. Okay, the first evaluator will be Jesus, who will evaluate Karen's speech on the infinity of the point value of the relative.
Good evening once again. My name is Jesus Rios, and I'm here to give an evaluation for Karen Okoy. Karen, first of all, I'd like to thank you for such a wonderful speech and educational. I really enjoy your speech. Your confidence is really coming through. You are really, really meticulous person. The way you set up everything, even the fact she gave me a printout of her introduction and her objectives, and she did a wonderful job. So if you think that I could ask us of her, I just follow her instructions. That was really well. And I'd like to mention real quick that if you haven't been at her place, you need to go. It's 101 South Main, North Main, correction, North Main. I stepped into her place for brief time, but in the short time that I was there, I noticed and I sensed this something special about this place. In my culture, we never drink tea. In our culture, we drink tequila. Which is not as spiritual or profound as tea it is. I really enjoy bringing all the props and demonstrating the ritual that goes into the serving, onto the rituals of the tea. What I saw, then as you were doing your speech, I don't know if it was a little bit of nervousness, or maybe you overthought too much, you overthinked it. But you were really doing eye contact, and I think that that's really important when you make eye contact. And you know, Brian, you know, Karen, how I feel when Rahul came to you and talked to you. You can be a leader. Yes. A competent leader. He just put you in the spot and he grab you. You're not going nowhere. Your mind is not going to be wandering around because you know he can come back to you again as he did to you. John, he put you on the spot also. You know how I feel.
Yes.
And that's what I want you to do. I want you to just take a little time and just make one phrase to one member of the audience, and you can see how you really trap them. You got them with a hook, they ain't going nowhere because you got them. And I will go with the manual the way it says to evaluate. The general purpose of the speech was clear. I give you 3, which is the maximum rating. The specific purpose of the speech was clear. Yes, it was. The speech organization supported the speech's specific purpose. Yes. The main points and supporting material contribute to the speech's specific purpose. Yes. The beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce the specific purpose. Certainly did. The speaker achieved the specific purpose. I think that we all got a good feeling of what is a tea ritual in Japan. And just how wonderful it is. It's not just about drinking the tea, but it's also making a connection, something spiritual about it. The speaker appeared confident and sincere with minimal nervousness. I give you 4 there, and I think because I see a little something, you need to give yourself more freedom, more freedom to move around and to command attention, just like Raul did, like really demanding attention. And the last one, the speaker did not rely on notes throughout the speech. That is correct. She didn't use any notes. What could the speaker have done differently to make the speech more effective? Maybe prepare, setting up your props on the table so you don't have to be bending over. And that's something that I did myself. And also it's not good to turn your back to the audience as you get in the stuff. So that's just a little something that it can be easily corrected. Next time around, you'll be like Raul. The speaker did not rely, what did you like about her presentation? I like your professionalism. It looked like you're really knowledgeable about what you were talking about. and your appearance. You look really professional, and that's my suggestions for Karen.
Okay, John Laurels.
That was smooth.
Thank you, Jesus, that was fantastic. Now we will have Tom Trainer evaluate Rahul Bhatts on his leadership speech. Tom.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, honored and distinguished guests, viewers at home. But it's most especially Rahul. This is really about you and your speech. Vocal variety. After 2 years, doing this once before, he did it good. I'm going to go through the manual because I like to follow all the points. Topic selection, facilitated vocal variety, above average. Volume, excellent. He's learned. He grew up. Boy, you got to be loud, I'm sure. Rate, excellent, varied. Pitch, it was varied. It was conversational. Quality, pleasant and friendly. Rahul is a very good speaker. Don't doubt that. He's practiced. He's been a winner at 2 different contests. He knows what to do. Quality, pleasant, friendly. Pauses, satisfactory. Now, you want to use a pause to make an important point. And you want to counter stop. Like we talked about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. Seth did a major thing. And then he sped up his talk when he would have better just stopped and got real quiet. Because when I stop, all of your ears go up. Because we're afraid, they're all afraid that I'm going to walk over and ask them a question like you did, see? So they don't know what I'm going to do. Nobody knows which. So you really have a major point. Make your pause, make your point. Everybody is listening to you. Make use of that. Expressiveness, always. Very expressive, conveyed emotion, meaning, he gets really into it, he puts everything on the line. Vocal variety, enhance your speech, organization, logical flow of ideas. Word usage. I would like to see you use simpler words, smaller sound bites. We can understand you better, because when you talk fast and use bigger words, it kind of gets a little mixed up. Body language, very natural, very expressive. He kept massaging and pointing to this. He was using a lot of good gestures. What could you have done different? I've already talked about it. Use your pause to make your point. Just like I did. I once gave a professional speaker a 30-second pause. He went ballistic. He had never seen anybody do that. What I like about it, your sincerity, your call to action, to ask every member to be a whole member and to do it all. Excellent. Mr. General Evaluator. Yep.
Now, it is time to vote. If you liked either of the 2 speeches, you get only to vote for one tonight, but...
Best evaluator.
Oh, sorry, did both evaluators qualify?
3.
Jesus did not qualify.
Liz did not. Okay. So that's Jyoti and Tom then. Okay, voting has ended. Pens down. We'll have a 1-minute report from our timer, Rhea Smith. Saint.
table topics, Art, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, Jean, 2 minutes and 15 seconds, Diane, 2 minutes and 6 seconds, and Stephanie, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The longer speeches, Karen, 12 minutes, and Raoul, 8 minutes and 21 seconds. The table topics evaluator, I'm afraid I might say your name wrong, Hote?
Jyoti.
Jyoti, 3 minutes and 12 seconds. The speech evaluators, Jesus was 4 minutes and 53 seconds. 3 minutes and 14 seconds.
We'll now hear from our counter, Diane Denbaum.
Jim.
Sorry.
Hi, Thank you, Mr. Thank you. I'll now give my counter report. If you do not hear your name called, that means I did not detect any filler words. Our illustrious Toastmaster Ryan Olson had 3 ahs, Rhea 1 Rhonda 1 like, Diane 1 you know, Stephanie you used and twice as a filler word instead of conjunction, Jyoti 5 uhs and 1 but, Jesus 1 like 1 and, Karen 3 ums, 2 so's, and 3 tongue clicks, Rahul 1 you know, John 1 so far.
So far.
Thank you.
So far. And that is enough. We will now have a 2-minute report from our grammarian, Darlene.
Okay, we have 3 word of the day users. John is the winner with 2. Ryan used it once, motivated, which that applies, and Jeff had used it once.
Karen used it twice.
Did you use it twice? Okay, I'm so sorry. I was so into what you were saying that I did lose track of time. Oh, Raoul says he did too? Okay,
Yes.
I really did get captivated by your speeches, so I apologize for that. So we have a tie with John
Three-way
and
tie.
Karen and Raoul, you did it once. Okay, thank you.
You're
Okay, phrases that I liked, Art. My friends encouraged me to step out of my military parade stance. Jean, my dad could get doors open for our family. Diane, moderation, Diane. And he was a funny guy. He didn't follow what he said. Stephanie, Dad never said anything bad about anyone. Karen, Jean asked me, what is the purpose of drinking tea? Tea ceremony, a wonderful experience. There were so many in your speech for me. Catch those moments of utter simplicity. The mind was conquered. That is the point of drinking tea. Raoul, how can you be a leader? Competent leader. Members are here to give the speeches, right? Just the enthusiasm and the force that you had. Tom said, Raoul, you need to bring your manual. Jesus, in my culture, we don't drink tea. We drink tequila.
That was great.
You got them with the hook, and they aren't going anywhere. That was also Jesus. And Tom, make your pause, make your point. Thank you.
Well, now, we will have a joke from our joke master. That would be Diane Denbaum.
Good evening again. Here's a fact. The Webster's Dictionary just celebrated its 185th anniversary. Reader's Digest decided that they were going to introduce a new, improved, and funnier version for some definitions that are in the Webster Dictionary. And here are a few of my favorites. The definition of a greeting card. When you care enough to send the very best, but not enough to actually write something. Yoga, a Sanskrit word that means heal your back, without health insurance. Ultimatum. A last demand before resorting to concessions. Vegetarian. An old Indian word meaning lousy hunter. Life. The definition of life. What happens when you're not watching TV?
Good one.
The last one, NASCAR. The act of turning left in a Chevrolet for 4 hours.
I will now, as general evaluator, evaluate the evaluators. That would be tonight would be Jyoti, Jesus, and Tom. Jyoti had the speech for Karen. And no, I'm sorry, he was the table topics evaluator, which to me is the toughest evaluator because you've got a minute to do like 4 or 5 different speeches. But I think he did a great job running down each one. He described each speaker, and he gave a technique for improvement to each speaker, which is his goal. And you were very perceptive on the feeling level. You felt, well, it was a topic that is filled with emotion about our fathers, but you got into the feelings, you saw the feelings of each of the speakers, and you were able to bring that out and actually comment on it, and that helped us. Your delivery is very soft and it's very aware. I have just one suggestion, is that at the end of your sentences, you tend to fade. Okay, the energy is like you start off and it's really insightful and interesting, and at the end of the sentence, you just go away like that. So I would say, just for a little bit more impact, at the end of the sentence, that's where you put the punch. All right, leave us up for the next sentence. Jesus?
Yes, sir.
Ha! Let me come over there. Jesus, you had Karen's speech to evaluate tonight, and it was about infinity. You can't just say enough about infinity. And you did say a lot of good things. You have an amazing ability to teach with humor. For some reason, you tell us these things that she does, that people do, and you make a little funny joke about it, and it goes deeper in our learning, in our awareness, than just, that, and that's a rare ability. I only know of one other person that can do that. You gave actual examples to Karen about what physically she should do, which is a good teaching technique also, not just telling her what to do. You showed her with your body language what to do. And I think you otherwise developed a nice evaluation of a really amazing speech. Thank you very much. And I wish I had heard the speech before we were in there Sunday, because there would have been a lot more background to going to the... I thought I was there just for the caffeine buzz.
That too.
It got me through the afternoon. Tom, what can we say about Tom? Tom is our most accomplished evaluator. Is Gene Simon and Craig here? No. Tom is our most accomplished evaluator. And I love the way Tom uses the book as a structure to go down and tell people what they did. So they can't hold anything against him because it's in the book. Okay? You're also very helpful. On each example, you give an example. And what I love about you, which I noticed more tonight, was your hand gestures. You've got this going. You've got the small, you've got this. He's multi-dimensional when he speaks. There's a lot here. I've been here all of 6 months, and I just discovered that. What could you do differently, Tom? I will not presume to do anything to do differently. I would just say, continue being the way you are. Stay the way you are. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we introduce the Toastmaster, Ryan. Go!
I enjoy being up here so much, I jump at the chance, highly motivated.
All right.
Now we are going to pass out the awards for the best speakers, starting with the best table topic speaker. Let's have a drum roll. Diane Dunbow. Next category is for the best prepared speech, and that goes to Rahul Vats. And in the last category for the best evaluator, we have Tom Trainer.
All right.
One more little item sitting up here, the Competent Communication Project 6 Vocal Variety.
That's right.
Is that also for Rahul?
You got Karen's.
Oh, okay.
Karen's for mistake.
And quick exchange, one for Karen. Karen got to the point. All right, I believe I now turn the club back over to the president.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan. First off, I'll start off with a question to our guest, Rick. What was your experience like tonight?
I've been to Toastmasters before, in fact, been to this club before. I've enjoyed it, and the last time I was here, I think I came once or twice, and I sort of focused on the techniques and tried to learn something the 2 times I was here. But this time, I was just struck by the sincerity of everyone's speech, and I had the same experience a couple of times. I was so kind of enthralled by these speeches that when it came time to write the evaluation, I sort of couldn't remember any of the details. So I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed listening. And I'd like to join. So just where do I sign up?
Oh, cool. See Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, see Jesus.
And where
Jesus
is
is
there
the
he is.
man.
Okay. Over there. Perfect. I'll start off with one small comment. Except my presidential privilege. I actually had the busiest week at work last week, and at the end of it, we had a big banquet, and I was surprisingly presented with an award. Yeah. Fortunately, I didn't freak out. Wow. Thanks to Toastmasters.
Yeah.
The multifaceted ways we saw Karen deliver an excellent speech, really embody what it is to be growing as a speaker, even though I think she had a lot of talents and a lot of strength from the very start, to really embrace that competent communicator. We heard from Rahul speak about leadership. That's another facet of Toastmasters. And then I told a small story about the awards. Which is another element as well. There's a whole other element as well, which is the behind-the-scenes organization of special events and other things. Other events behind the scenes. We have an upcoming handoff. I'm your president, but not for much longer. We have a new batch of young, inspired, motivated leaders. So I'll call up Diane.
Okay.
Fill us in.
Hello again. We have a little tradition. My stepdaughter, if you do something once and you do it a year later, it's a tradition. So this is a tradition that we honor the officers from the previous season and welcome the new officers by having a meeting at my house. And with my husband Louis, who I hope will be able to be there as well. It'll be on June 25th, which is one of our Tuesdays coming up, 7 o'clock p.m. I'll email the Toastmaster list, the directions to my home, because I'm out north of town, so I'll let you know how to get there. And we'll have some, we call it like a finger food at 7, so it's kind of like a dinner really, but we'll make it finger food, fun food. Hopefully if it's nice, we can be outside. If it's not, we'll go inside. What I'd like to do is just organize the snacks and the finger food so that we don't end up with just bags of chips.
Which isn't bad.
So I thought that maybe those that are inspired, that you have a favorite, raise your hand, tell us what it is, and we'll start to see what we have, and you can just keep going. So Tom.
Cheese and crackers.
Okay, cheese and crackers for the trainers. So we have a cheese and cracker.
Tequila.
Taste whatever.
Pijamas.
Anybody else? Rhonda.
Carrot sticks and celery sticks.
Ooh, okay, carrot and celery sticks. Okay.
Olives,
Ooh, olives.
stuffed jalapeno olives.
Okay. Now we're talking. That'll go great with everything. Olives. Vera.
Some fruit, either strawberries or grapes.
Okay, fruit. Great.
I'll make something, maybe cookies or...
Baked. Okay, so I'll put like cookies baked. So something sweet.
Cookies.
Cookies, John. Cookies.
It looks like we need a dip or something, so hummus.
Yeah. Hummus. You put the hummus, Karen?
Yeah.
Hummus. Jesus?
Horchata, which is rice water, would be organic rice water.
Oh.
You would bring that?
Yes, I would bring that.
With tequila.
Okay, and I'll have water there, so we can have water, horchata. Okay, so we have cheese and crackers, carrot and celery sticks, stuffed olives, fruit, 2 baked goods, probably in the cookie area for John and Darlene, hummus with, and the horchata. So if you don't have something in mind, you've got this in your head, you can just fill in. You've got the basics. I think that's everything. I hope we see you out there.
Nice.
I'll remind you again next week, and you can always email me if you suddenly come across a great recipe and want to bring it. Thanks, Will.
All right.
Thank you, Diane.
Sure.
Well, we've come to another meeting here, survived it, enjoyed it. Stick around for a few minutes, help us pick up, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Will.